Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Cabinet meeting. I'm Councillor Dale Broughton, Leader of the Council and Chairman of the Cabinet. To my left is Councillor Mike Gilbert, Deputy Leader of the Council and Vice Chairman of Cabinet. Before we start the meeting, I need to run through a few housekeeping details. Please be advised that this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, recorded and will be transcribed for the official record. By remaining in the room, you consent to being included in the recording and transcript. When addressing this meeting, please ensure that you do so through the microphone system at all times. You do not need to move or adjust the microphone. Simply raise your hand as usual, wait to be called, and then press the central button to activate your microphone before speaking. Speak clearly and directly so everyone in the room, remote participants and recordings can hear you. When finished, press the button again to turn it off. Thank you for your cooperation as we all get used to this new system. Mobile phones should be turned off or switched to the silent mode. Finally, please be advised that abuse or intimidation of any kind will not be tolerated. Any disturbance will result in the meeting being adjourned. Anyone who is deemed to breach these requirements will be warned and asked to refrain. And if the behaviour persists, they will be required to leave the meeting. Now we'll move to part one of the agenda, the preliminaries. Are there any apologies?
Apologies have been received. Apologies have been received from Councillors Sandeep Ghosh, Chris Mountain and Helen Staples.
Thank you. Does any member wish to declare any interest in respect of any items on the agenda? No, thank you. Do I have permission to sign the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 17th of September 2025 and the special Cabinet meetings held on the 13th of November and the 26th of November 2025? Every page. Every page. Are there any questions from members of the public received 2 clear working days prior to this meeting?
There are none for this meeting, Leader.
Thank you. Now we'll move to part 2, the agenda items. Recommendations from Overview and Scrutiny. Are there any recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for this meeting?
There are none for this meeting.
Are there any recommendations from BTAC?
There are none for this meeting.
Thank you. Right, the third agenda item is the Q2 25-26 Performance and Risk Report, which starts on page 17 of the agenda pack. This is my report, so I will present and propose a recommendation. I'm pleased to present the Q2 Performance and Risk Update. This report highlights the areas where we are not currently meeting our targets, as well as key movements within the Council's risk profile up to the end of September 2025. Overall, our performance remains strong across most service areas. The majority of indicators are on or above target, which is a testament to the effort and dedication shown by the teams across the organisation. That said, there are 2 areas where performance is currently below target, and these remain a priority for improvement. 1, corporate complaints response times. Our response rate to corporate complaints within the agreed timescales is 86.67% against a target of 95%. Several factors have contributed to this. Higher service volumes, some complaints being withdrawn partway through, and a number of cases still awaiting departmental confirmation before an outcome can be issued. To improve performance, the senior leadership team have asked the transformation team to work closely with the complaints team and PSPS. This work includes reviewing and streamlining the full complaints process, strengthening data sharing arrangements, holding regular joint meetings to ensure lessons are identified and acted upon, and categorising complaints so we can spot recurring themes and drive service improvement. The senior leadership team is receiving regular updates, and there is a clear focus on embedding learning from customer feedback. Subject request, data request. Our response rate is subject access request stands at 83.33%, which is also below our 95% target. Delays have mainly been caused by incomplete information, occasional team errors, and operational capacity pressures, including staff leaving. To address this, we have strengthened our internal processes through better tracking, clearer escalation routes, and further training for operational teams. Risk register. Moving on to risks, there have been several significant developments this quarter. The risk score has been reduced from high to medium on the server room infrastructure. The previous stalled project to relocate or upgrade the server room is now agreed and progressing, which reduces the risk of operational disruption or data loss. Net zero target. The likelihood of not meeting our net zero target has decreased. All planned mitigation measures are now in place, and our decarbonisation programme continues to work well. Depot capacity. The likelihood of insufficient depot capacity is also reduced. We now have confirmation of an extension to the depot with a lease secured from April 2025. This ensures the additional space required for future growth, including the introduction of food waste collections. Other significant risks such as financial sustainability, cybersecurity, and reliance on third-party providers remains under close review, with mitigating actions ongoing. To close, while the majority of our performance indicators remain strong, we are not complacent. We are taking targeted action in the areas where improvement is required, and our strengthened approach to risk management continues to support a resilient and sustainable organisation. Therefore, the Cabinet notes the quarterly performance and risk monitoring information for Q2 of 25-26, and I look for a seconder. Councillor Baxter. Are there any questions on this report? Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Leader. Not so much a question, more just a comment, really. Food safety, percentage of rateable food businesses with a rating of 3 generally satisfactory or above as a percentage of the total number of rateable food businesses for this quarter for quarter 2 was 97.5%. This shows that the vast majority of the food businesses in our area are compliant and and meet the criteria. And I just want to remind residents as we go into the festive season with Christmas meals and all that to check to make sure they are eating somewhere that is clean and safe and has got 3 stars or above.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, totally agree. I keep seeing every month 5 stars coming up for most of our food businesses, which is really, really encouraging for people wanting to come to the town, visit our heritage and history, and also have a nice meal in a safe environment. So that's really pleasing to read that. Any other questions? No? Okay. We will now move to the vote. All those in favour? Clearly carried. Thank you. Move on to item 4, proposed amendments to the council contract procedure rules. The 4th agenda item is the proposed amendments to the council's contract procedure rules, which starts on page 59 of the agenda pack. The head of procurement and contracts, PSPSL, is in attendance. Martin, would you like to present the report?
Thanks, Chair. So tonight I'm bringing proposed amendments to the contract procedure rules to the Cabinet for approval of the delegations to officers, Appendix 2. And in addition to this, you are asked to review the revised set of CPRs, and any comments are then to be considered prior to the final draft revised documents being presented to full council for full approval. To provide background, the purpose of these amendments is twofold. The first reason being that public procurement legislation has changed, with the Procurement Act 2023 being in place since February 2025. Whilst the current contract procedure rules are compliant with this legislation, the proposed amendments include additions and amendments to further align the contract procedure rules with the Procurement Act 2023. In addition to this, the last time the CPRs were updated was 3 years ago, meaning they were becoming due for a review. Appendix 1A, which begins at pages 65 and goes until page 83, shows the clean version of the proposed amendments, whereas Appendix 1B, starting at page 85 and ending at 111, shows the track changes version. Appendix 2, which is pages 113 to 116, details the delegations to officers, And just to clearly note, the only change proposed here is to align the figures within this document with the proposed threshold changes within the contract procedurals. Appendix 3, page 117 to 120, highlight the key changes. The Cabinet is asked to recommend the draft revised contract procedurals at Appendix 1A to full council for adoption. And the Cabinet is also asked to approve the delegations to officers that sets out the authorisation for decision making in relation to contract procedurals at Appendix 2 to this report. This approval will be subject to a council decision to amend the contract procedurals.
Thank you, Martin. Is there a proposer? Councillor Baxter and a seconder. Councillor Butler, thank you. Are there any questions on this report? Can you hear a voice? I can't. Oh, sorry.
On the meeting and use.
There isn't one.
You can grab it.
Use Claire's.
Can I lean over your shoulder? Is that possible?
Yeah, yeah, sit there, yeah. Will that pick him up? Yeah, sit there, Stephen.
Oh, thanks. When we went through A&G, I think I raised an issue about reporting back. I think the contract went from 85,000 up to 1 million. And I think we raised an issue about whether or not officers would be actually writing reports up to, between that 85,000 and 1 million. We felt that was too big an increase, if I remember rightly. And we requested that reports should be written. I think it says something about the fact that reports wouldn't be written by the officer if it was under £1 million. Whereas I think, if I remember rightly, we agreed at NG that should be modified. So has that been modified? Is Martin here?
Yeah, correct. So it's not been modified, no, but there is a response that's due to be circulated through to A&G following that.
Okay. You think that's adequate, do you?
Yes, I do.
Right. I think I'd challenge that. But anyway, thank you very much indeed, Leader, for allowing me to speak in the meeting.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Any other questions? Well, we'll now move to the vote then. All those in favour? Clearly carried. Thank you. The fifth agenda item is the counter fraud, bribery and corruption policy, which starts on page 121 of the agenda pack. The Director of Finance and Section 151 officer is in attendance. Russell, would you like to present the report?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So today I'm providing an update on the counter fraud, bribery and corruption policy. Purpose very much to ensure we have a robust and up-to-date policy in place, and where we can do align it across the South and East Lincolnshire Council partnership. Council has a duty to prevent fraud and corruption both within the organisation and in our dealings with external partners, and a strong policy helps us safeguard public funds and ensure we meet our legal obligations. I mean, in terms of the recommendations, the first one is that Cabinet is asked to approve the revised policy, which you find at Appendix 1. The second recommendation is that authority be delegated to myself to make minor updates or changes as legislation requires, following consultation with the relevant portfolio holder. I would take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Russell. Is there a proposer? Councillor Sharp and a seconder. Councillor Ryder, thank you. Right, are there any questions for Russell? No. Good, thank you. Right, we'll now move to the vote then. All those in favour? Any against? No. Clearly carried, thank you. Thanks, Russell. Item 6 is the Q2 25-26 forecast outturn. The sixth item agenda is the Q2 2025-26 forecast outturn, which starts on page 139 of your agenda pack. Again, the Director of Finance and Section 15 Officer Russell would like to present the report. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As members will be aware, we produce these quarterly reports throughout the year, essentially forecasting based on we are to the year-end position. And this report gives the half-year report through to 31st of March 2026. In terms of the revenue position, pleased to report that there is still a deficit position of 571,000 on the revenue account. That is an improved position from what was reported at Q1, which was over 800,000. So a significant improvement on the forecast at that point. In terms of some of the key issues on the revenue side, you will see that there are still various pressures against income, particularly relating to planning, crematorium services, commercial waste and markets. But some of those pressures are being offset by savings in our computer savings, car parking income, and a reduction in the cost of council tax bad debt. Also seen as well in terms of our net budget for investment income, we are forecasting an outturn of £1.85 million, which is an overachievement of £128,000 for the year. Again, as members will be aware, though, we did come into the year with an efficiency target that we're required to meet. That still remains to an extent. So whilst there has been progress against it, we do still need to realise approaching £700,000 to meet that saving requirement. In terms of treasury management, you will be aware from other reports that through the last quarter or so, we've been looking at options to repay prematurely the State Street loan. That has now been undertaken, given rates were favourably positioned for us. We have then replaced that with a new loan, but at a much reduced rate. So rather than paying over 11%, we're now paying less than 5% on that sum. In the year, that will generate a saving of around 28,000, and that will be a saving that carries on into future years as well to aid the budget position. In terms of capital, into Appendix B and Table 1, you've got in there all the details of the schemes that we have. And after the various amendments that are included in it, we have a programme that is just over £38.5 million for the year, with forecast expenditure of just over £37 million. So currently projecting an underspend of around £1.25 million, which we'll continue to monitor through the next 2 quarters. In terms of recommendations, Cabinet are asked to note the forecast revenue position of 571,000 deficit, and also the need for a continuous focus on managing that position and bringing the efficiency targets in on track. Also note there are amendments to the capital programme Appendix B, and that in terms of Appendix B, Table 3, that will be a recommendation to Council to make those amendments. Again, happy to take any questions, Chairman.
Thank you. I'd just like to give my, and I'm sure the Cabinet's thanks for all the hard work. Since you've actually come onto the team, you've hit the ground running. Obviously, this is obviously the busiest time of the year for you and your staff. So just thank you for you and everybody who's working hard on all this, but also some of the initiatives you're coming up with for saving money, which is all very good. So is there a proposer? Councillor Butler, seconded. Councillor Gilbert. Is there any questions for Russell on this report? Councillor Butler first.
Thank you, Leader. Again, not so much a question, more just a comment, just to say on the 28k reduction in commercial waste income that we're working on that with a new commercial waste manager due to be implemented soon, which will hopefully spearhead new initiatives and drive up that sector.
Yeah, we've actually just had meetings about that. That was one of the topics this afternoon with Councillor Butler, and I know his team's working hard to fill that position, and obviously we can see the potential that could have going forward. So I'm very keen to see that happen. Councillor Gilbert.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question really relating to the item at the bottom of page 149, which relates to property fund investments. I'm just wondering whether there are any implications arising from the detail in that first and the second paragraph over the page that we may need to consider going forward. I mean, there's reference to fair value was below the purchase cost. I'm just not too clear what that actually means. Does it mean that these things are not worth as much as at one time they would have been?
Yeah, through you, Chairman. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that the carrying value of the investments, if we were to realise them today,
Yeah.
is below the initial investment that was put into them.
Right.
Now, obviously, at this point, whilst we are looking at options around exiting the funds, we would only do that if the financial criteria was right for the council.
Okay.
And there's sort of no intention at this point to realise what would be a loss that would hit the general fund
Right, okay.
from this stage. What I would say is, whilst the carrying values are lower, if you track the investments from the point that they were initially made, the returns that are being received, even reflecting that reduction in carrying value,
right,
exceed what would have happened if we'd have just put it into sort of the standard savings account.
Okay, I understand.
So whilst on paper it doesn't look as good as it could do, the actual long-term decision is still a robust one.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions? No. Right, we'll now move to the vote. All those in favour? Clearly carried. Thank you. Right, the 7th agenda item is the Local Council Tax Support Scheme 2026-27, which starts on page 159 of the agenda pack. Busy night for you, Russell. Again, this is Russell presenting the report.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so in terms of the council tax support scheme, the council must review its scheme for working age claimants every year and consult with major pre-setting authorities and interested parties. The scheme for pensioners is set by government and not something that we can influence. In terms of the current scheme, currently provide up to 100% support for households with children, up to 85% support for other households, which I think is a very generous scheme compared to what might be in place elsewhere. So at the meeting on the 17th of September, Cabinet agreed to consult on 3 options for the coming year. Again, for working age claimants only, not pensioners, with those options shown within section 2.1 of the report. So the report tonight brings forward recommendations based on that consultation that took place. In terms of responses received, we didn't get a huge turnout in terms of responses, but of those that did, 35% thought that the current scheme should remain in place, whilst 43% thought there should be some reduction, whether that be option 2 or option 3 that has been put forward. In terms of option 2, that would reduce scheme costs by £332,000, and option 3 would reduce scheme costs by £421,000. So having regard to the results of the consultation and the consideration set out within the report, also looking at the potential implications for households in recipient of or in receipt of council tax support, the recommendation is to reduce support in line with option 2. Option 2 being the more generous of the 2 reduction options for those in receipt of support. Any saving realised will support the council's legal obligation to deliver a balanced budget, and hopefully also strike a reasonable balance with support that our residents need. So in terms of recommendations, first one is that Cabinet recommend to full council approval for the change of the maximum level of support to 90% for lone parents, 80% for couples with children, and 75% for all other households. And we would seek to upgrade the scheme in line with DWP's allowances and premiums for the coming year. And then also seeks a delegation myself in consultation with the portfolio holder finance to sort of those amendments around prescribed administrative and minor changes. But happy to take any questions there might be.
Thank you, Russell. Do we have a proposer for this? Councillor Baxter and a seconder? Councillor Rylett, thank you. Do we have any questions for Russell on this report? Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Leader. Not so much questions, but comments. I appreciate with the consultation that the team have worked really hard on this. I think it's important that we look at this report when we've looked at the finances in the previous report. I think it's really good that as a group, as a council, we then gave 100% for a whole year. But I think the thing to take account of is where it mentions in the report, the recommended option, which is option 2, will help balance council finances whilst minimising changes in the level of support. So I think basically, obviously, this will mean probably not so much help and support. And for those people, I was really pleased to read, if they've got financial hardship, that we as a council have discretion to provide further support for householders experiencing exceptional hardship. So from looking at this, obviously, well, initially you'd think, oh, 100% is good, but like everything else in the world today, we have economies and sort of like hardship and things. So I would say that I agree with the recommendation of option 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Councillor Gilbert?
Yeah, I agree. This is the sort of issue which is quite polarising, really, because people tend to take the view that when you're looking at reducing welfare or reducing support, you know, you're doing something which you can probably avoid doing if you really found sort of money elsewhere. What I voted in favour of the 100% support when this went to full council last year, and I was inclined on this occasion to sort of abstain because I felt instinctively that it's not the sort of thing that I wanted to put my name to. When you consider the issues that Councillor Bax has mentioned, i.e. the borough's finances, and you also consider that as a fairly low wage community, we actually have a lot of people who are in work on low wages, who are having to meet the full 100% payment from their own income. This is not so much about doing something harmful to those people who are claiming welfare, but actually looking at the other side of the equation, which is those people who are having to work to pay their council tax. And I think this strikes a very, very fair balance.
Yeah, I totally agree with Councillor Gilbert. Times are hard all the way through the country at the moment, and obviously working families, individuals, everything, money, every part of money is very tight. So I think this is the fairest scheme and the fairest option, which balances for everything. But obviously we'll wait and see on people's report. But Councillor Butler.
Just to follow on from what Councillor Gilbert said, really, having read, we get all the comments that come on from the consultation, which rightly or wrongly, that's all we can go on. So if only 65 people bother to do the consultation, that's what we go on. And the vast majority of the comments were in favour of a reduction. Most of the comments were along the lines of, I'm a working person and I'm struggling, where's my help? So I think it's right that we revisit this topic, and I think it's right that we go with the least of the reductions.
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously, it is disappointing that we put these consultations out and the numbers quite often turn out to be quite small. I have had discussions about different ways of doing the consultations and different methods, but we still seem to end up getting the same poor results that whichever way we do them, which is unfortunate because obviously this is a topic that does affect a lot of people. So when these consultations go out, if more of the residents can actually just take a couple of minutes just to fill them in, it gives us a clearer indication of people's thoughts on that. And 65 is quite minimal, really. But again, 35% voted for the remaining it in place, and the other, the majority was in favour of lowering it. So that's where we've come to tonight. And is there any more questions on it? Yep, Councillor Woodliff.
Apologise. You know, I wrote to you about it anyway.
Yeah.
I dropped a note to you. Not to mention what I said in the letter because that's probably not a good idea. But the thing I picked out from the report was this one about the parents. I really appreciate the support you give my family this year with 100% support for council tax. Being a single dad with 3 very young children, every penny helps, especially how quick basic essentials are going up. Please try and keep the 100% support as it helps so many and can make a difference. Well done, Boston Borough Council. And that was, I think, the one I picked out of all the others. I appreciate everything that's been said tonight. You know, I mean, we live in hard times, and people, of course, who haven't got children who are also struggling, and I have every right to turn around and say, "Well, look, nobody's helping me." So I do understand that, and it's a very, very tough choice, I think. I've got no criticism of the cabinet at all in this. I appreciate your situation. You've got to make the right decision with the money we've got and so on. It's just that I'm very wary about making life harder for people who have children. It's tough world out there, and children don't choose their parents. They land in the parents, they land with the parents they've been given. And some situations, of course, where there is no money or very little money in the household, and you're asking them to pay also proportion towards council tax. Now, people would say, well, if that's the right thing they should do. And parents, of course, are responsible for their children. Of course, they are. But at the end of the day, it's the children that suffer. I think that's the problem I have. So, you know, all credit to you. You've done a very good job here. You've set out the all the aspects of the situation. I have no criticism of you at all. And if you vote through what you have, that's fine. You know, I think at full council, you know, I might well decide I want to oppose it. I'll have to think about it. But all credit to you. You know, I think you've done a very good job here. And I appreciate everything you've said. I understand it's a very difficult situation because we have to balance the books at the end of the day. So I have no criticism, but I am concerned for the welfare of children. Most of my life was spent in schools and so on, teaching children, and in some very difficult circumstances. We're in tough schools. So I know how some children do suffer. But I want to thank you very much indeed for allowing me to speak. And yes, you know, you've done a good job here. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Like I say, thank you for your letter last week as well. As you've quite rightly pointed out, children don't pick the parents, and it is very hard for everybody at the moment. But ultimately, these decisions, we're here as decision makers, and it's not a good decision to make either way. But we'll see what happens. But Councillor Gilbert.
Yes, thank you. I mean, just to perhaps reassure Councillor Woodliff a little, I mean, before I actually sort of made my comments earlier, I did do a little bit of research on this issue of the cost of bringing up children in different households with different forms of income. And I'll just read the quote that I plucked out of a sort of an economic journal. Let's consider some facts. Analysis from the Centre of Social Justice, which is hardly a right-wing think tank, has calculated that a family with one child and one adult in full-time work and the other in part-time work, both on the minimum wage, which is predominantly the sort of wage that people earn in an area like Boston, take-home pay is around £28,000 per annum after tax. By contrast, a couple, neither of whom work, but with 3 children, can expect upwards of £46,000 per annum. To match that income through employment, a working couple would have to earn the equivalent of £71,000. So I think we're getting the balance right here. But, you know, we have to bear in mind that, you know, the welfare system isn't ungenerous in the way that it operates in certain situations and within certain households.
Thank you, Councillor Gilbert. Any other questions? No, thank you. Right, well, now we'll move to the vote then. All those in favour? Really carried. Thank you. I would like to reiterate, Councillor Woodliff, I appreciate your comments and your passion for your position. And again, as we have specified, this isn't an easy decision to make on either way, but we are trying to do what's best for everybody in the borough. So, but we do appreciate all your comments and your observations. So, thank you. Right, move on to part 8. Exclusion of public to consider resolving that under section 100A part 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Act as amended. Do I have a proposer and a seconder? Councillor Baxter proposed, Councillor Gilbert second. We will now move to the vote. All those in favour? Clearly carried. Thank you. Any members of the press and public in attendance are now asked to leave the meeting. The live stream will now be switched off. Dave.